All right. The Utah Jazz get a very impressive win. Let's talk about why it was so impressive. I'm back from vacation. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, before we get into it, let's just give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd. They will match up to $100. Guys, if you haven't already, go do it. They will match you up to $100, and it supports the channel. It's free money. You put $5 down, they will give you $5, and guess what? There's $95 left of matching. It's a lot of fun. By the way, go put the over on Collin Sexton. He's playing out of his mind. Go to prizepicks.com. You will not regret it. It's a lot of fun. And then use promo code HoopsNerd. It would be great. And you'll have fun. All right, guys. I'm back from vacation. Sorry I missed the last show, but I was gone. My parents' internet was bad, and we were just going to spend time with family. And it was the last time I get to see my parents for a while. So that's where I was last time. Also, we went to a trampoline park. And I went to slam dunk the ball. The ball ricocheted off the rim and destroyed my glasses. So it's contact lenses for me for a while. We'll see. Maybe I glued them. Maybe we'll keep using them. I don't know. But anyways, RIP to the glasses and RIP to the Miami Heat tonight, who the Utah Jazz honestly crushed. I mean, I guess we wouldn't say crushed. It was a great game. The Heat played a solid game, but this Utah Jazz team is proving to be a lot better than they were earlier this season when they weren't playing very well. We're just not being a very good basketball team and losing games they shouldn't have lost. And tonight they proved why they are a good team, and there's a lot of things coming together for this Jazz team that probably weren't before. So let's just take a look at it. Let's bring this down. All right, so can you see that there? Let's make me smaller. There we go. All right, so let's see. Let's go down here. By the way, let's just take a quick glance at the Miami Heat. Bam Adebayo had an awesome game. 28 points for him, 25 for Hero. Bam Adebayo is awesome. Jimmy Butler left in the second half. He did not impact the game all that much. He plays just 22 minutes. And the Utah Jazz did a really good job. We're going to talk about what the Jazz did in this game and why it was so good. By the way, what do you think? My daughter got me this for Christmas. Merry Christmas to me from my oldest daughter. Let's see. So Simone Fontecchio gets the start with Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Chris Dunn, and Collin Sexton. There have been so many different lineups this season for the Jazz, and I think it's by design. To be honest, just based off some of the things we're seeing, I think starting doesn't quite matter as much as closing with this Jazz team, and really interesting stuff. Simone Fontecchio plays, and I honestly think it's as much as a defensive player as an offensive player. Fontecchio plays hard, and he's big, and what he can do is also shoot the ball, so he's kind of like a 3-and-D player on the floor, and that's part of why I think he's starting. It's just defensively he can do that, and then it allows Lauri Markkanen to play at the 4. And then the Jazz have John Collins at the center. And what this does is it is a 5-out unit. And with Chris Dunn, he has just not been knocking down the 3 lately, it means there's only one non-shooter on the floor. And I guess, honestly, right now, if Chris Dunn is starting, then I doubt we see Walker Kessler starting. I think that's the big thing, because if you have 2 non-shooters on the floor, it makes things it makes things easier for opposing teams to defend the Utah Jazz. And so with Chris Dunn not being a lights-out shooter, and he only plays 17 minutes tonight, that's why you're probably seeing John Collins, because he is a good shooter. Tonight, 2 for 6 from 3, but it's enough to spread the floor. 6 rebounds and just 1 turnover. Okay night for John Collins, but what he does is spreads the floor and allows Chris Dunn to do some things. Chris Dunn, the numbers, you'll look at these, weren't that good, but if you watched the game, he had 6 assists. He was awesome defensively in that first quarter, and that's kind of what he brings as well, is you've got defense from Simone Fontecchio, who I think is an above average, or at least average to above average defender, somewhere in there. And then you've got Chris Dunn, who I think everyone would agree is a good defender. I don't know if he's an elite lockdown guy, but Chris Dunn is definitely a good defender, and he gets steals, and he disrupts a lot of things that the offense wants to do. So, anyways, I think that honestly is probably the reason why I think some people were wondering, why is Walker Kessler not starting? I think it's as simple as that. The Jazz don't want more than one non-shooter on the floor, and that's why. Something's going on with the chat. If you guys are in the chat, let me make sure this is working. There we go. I don't know why the chat has been so weird lately on YouTube. Can you see Nerd without the specs? Yeah, I've got contact lenses in. So, and we need Hoops Nerd merch. Guess what, guys? Actually, if you go to the Hoops Nerd channel, if you go, let's see, I'll even go there right now and I'll just walk you through it. But if you want, there's actually YouTube merch on the channel. Go to the channel. You go view your, go to view the channel. And if you go under store, there's Hoops Nerd merchandise. So go check it out. In fact, there's a hat there I want to get, like a stocking cap for the winter, and t-shirts. So go check it out. It's on the Hoops Nerd show, or the Hoops Nerd store on the channel. All right. Well, anyways, so Lauri Markkanen had probably his worst shooting night of the season. It was really bad. Let's see. Let's pull that back up. Sorry. Markkanen couldn't hit a thing. And actually, it's part of the reason why I think this was such an impressive win for the Jazz. They win this game with Markkanen not shooting the ball well. And that's a big-time thing for this Jazz team because they have been relying so much on Lauri Markkanen, and so much of the game plan has been to get Lauri Markkanen the ball, get Lauri Markkanen the ball. And Lauri Markkanen has to have a monster night for the Jazz to win. And tonight, they have a terrible Lauri Markkanen night. Markkanen only plays 26 minutes in this one. He actually sat for an extended period in the second half because look at this. He couldn't hit a three. He hit a big-time one when he came back. He came in at about 4 minutes left, which is pretty interesting. He left with just 22 minutes played, came back with about 4 minutes and change left in the game, comes in, and he hit a big-time three. When it mattered most, he hit it. But before that, he was 0 for 7. And this Jazz team was in this game and leading for a lot of the game. And so that's just kind of, Markkanen's not going to be perfect every night. He's such an elite shooter, but every player deserves at least one off night here and there. And you're just going to have that. And Markkanen tonight was definitely the night for him. 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. But yeah, you bring in Markkanen. Why? Because he's a shooter. And he does have pretty good size. So he's a pretty decent defender sometimes. Sometimes I would say Markkanen's average as a defender. He gets scored on here and there, but he's an average defender. But what's nice is he's got good size, and so he can rebound really well, which helps out a lot. And he does do some weak side shot blocking, things like that. So I would say average, and sometimes occasionally maybe a little above average, but he's about average. It does help that he's big, but his 7-foot stature doesn't always seem to deter whoever he's guarding. So I don't know. He's not a very impact defender, but he does pretty decent. Anyways, you bring him in for his shooting. And he could not shoot the ball tonight. And so despite Lauri Markkanen shooting 1 for 8 from 3, the Jazz get a nice win. Why is it? Well, we talked about Chris Dunn a little bit. His defense was amazing. Oh, by the way, Key himself, $2. Are we tanking or nah? I think that they're going to try to convey the pick. I mean, I think they're trying to win. That's what they're doing. They haven't made any trades yet. They're not trying to tear it down. By the way, if they do tear it down, there's a few guys I kind of like in this draft, but I don't think you're getting an all-star if you're in the lottery this year. And so I think the Jazz are just trying to convey that pick, and we'll see what happens next year. But it's going to be a really interesting offseason and honestly a really interesting trade deadline. In fact, I probably should make a video about that, quickly OG Anunoby trade, because I do think it affects the Jazz a little bit. But I don't think we are tanking. I think they're just trying to convey the pick. And you know what? I think that's what they're trying to do. And honestly, they're pretty good. I think the Jazz are good enough to make the play-in. I mean, they're not that far off. And we'll look at the standings. Keyonte says tank not. I agree. Christian House Money at a Haas. Member for 28 months. Freaking amazing, Christian. Thank you for supporting the channel. I want to win. Let's go. I would like to win as well. Now, next year, I have some opinions on things because the Cooper flag draft is next year, as well as some Ace Bailey and some of these guys that are just freaking amazing. And so we'll see. Key himself, $2, my man. Thank you so much. If we make it to the playoffs, OKC gets the pick. If we make it to the 11th, so look, here's how it works. If the Jazz pick is top 10 protected. So right now the Jazz get their pick if it stays within this bottom 10 teams. That's how the Jazz keep their pick. If the Jazz improve enough that they get to the 11th record or better, the pick goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's how it works. And so right now, and why would the Jazz not want to keep their pick? Well, let's just talk about it really fast, and then we'll go back to the regularly scheduled program. Why do you want to convey the pick? Well, first, it's not a very good draft. And one thing, these new contacts, dude, they hurt my eyes a little bit. I'm just trying to get used to them. It's not a very good draft. And one thing I heard that was an interesting point, I think it was Jake Fisher's article, I can't remember, talked about how there are some GMs that if you're in a draft that you're not really excited about, like if you're in this bottom 10 and you're not even getting someone in the top, there's like 6 or 7 guys in this draft that I think could be rotation players. That's why it's not a very good draft, because you're like hoping for a rotation guy in the top 10. And that doesn't mean there's not good guys here. I mean, there's a few guys that, pretty interesting. If the Jazz could get Jacoby Walter, man, that would be cool. I was watching a thing today. Looks pretty awesome. And I've already talked to you guys about what's his face? Stephon Castle. By the way, him dropping is crazy because I know there's one outlet who has him as the #1 pick. That's crazy. But anyways, let's say you get a top 10 pick in this draft. You're at like number 9. You get this rando Rob Dillingham, and you don't know who he is. You have to pay him. That is like locked in money on your salary cap. And top 10 picks make pretty decent money. Taylor Hendricks is making more money than Keyonte George because it's scaled into their contract. Like Ron Holland's going to make, if he's the #1 pick, it's like 9 or 10 million a year. No choice. Keyonte George went like 16 and it's like 1.5 million. It scales down. I think it's like, I can't remember what it is. It's like 8 to 10 million. Or it might be a little less than that, but it scales down. By the time it's like 9, I think Taylor Hendricks is making like 2.5 million, maybe 3 to 4. I can't remember. Well, let's just look at it. Rookie scale contract NBA. So here's the rookie scale. So I was right. All right. So #1 pick makes 10 million a year. #2 makes 9. So Taylor Hendricks right now is making $4.6 million to play in the G League. It's pretty crazy. And Keyonte is making 3.2 or around there. I think teams, if they want, they can actually do like a goodwill like bonus. They can tack on like 20% or 40%. I can't remember. And it's a new CBA, so I don't know if that's even still in the CBA. But so let's say you don't really want to pick. Let's say you're the Jazz and you get like you get things go bad and they get the 6th pick. And all the guys you like are in the top 5, and you have to make a pick at 6. You try to trade out. No one else wants it because it's not a very good draft. They're not going to want to pay the price it takes to get into the top 10. And that's $6 million on your books. That's not chump change. I know the salary cap is going up, but that's $6 million that you can't spend. And I think after the Jazz go and give Lauri Markkanen a contract, doesn't leave him a lot left. And if you go into this draft and you get like the 7th or 8th guy and he's making, 5.5 million, there goes your cap. And if he's not a very good guy and he's sitting in the G League, that's dead money. Guys, thank you for the donations. Christian to House Money to Haas, $5. $5 for every ever-changing 5 starters. I don't know if I quite understand, Christian, but I appreciate the donation. $5 for ever-changing 5 starters. Yeah, okay, we're going to talk about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Why are the starters always changing? Well, Chris Dunn's starting for one, which is why I think John Collins is playing. Let's celebrate their 5th super on let's see. I don't know. YouTube is telling me to do a lot of things, and I don't understand. The outlaw Jesse James Nelson, great team win. Keyonte was fired. Yes, he was. Key himself, $2, my man. Thank you so much, my friend. We can trade into the 2nd round and get Zach Edey. Isn't he the Purdue center, the big time? I mean, he's huge. I think the Jazz and Will Hardy and Danny Ainge really like stretch centers. Don't forget, who did the Jazz go after, and why did the Boston Celtics have to give a big time contract to Porzingis? The Jazz wanted Porzingis. They almost got him. It sounded like it was on the verge of happening. They were going to give their cap space to him. Why? The Jazz like to spread the floor. If you have a player that can protect the rim and shoot threes, that is a big-time player in the modern NBA. Just big-time player, because then on the offensive end, I mean, that's what makes Porzingis so valuable to the Celtics this year, and he's a big reason why the Celtics likely going to win the title this year if he can stay healthy, is because spreads the floor on offense protects the rim on defense. I mean, that's cheat code. It's why Chet Holmgren is freaking amazing. You know, I love Wembanyama, and I still think he's going to be just an absolute monster. Although the Spurs are like kind of doing some coaching malpractice this year with what they're doing with him and whatnot. It's kind of a wasted development year because they have him playing off of. We don't need to talk about the Spurs, but what makes Chet Holmgren freaking awesome? Chet's shooting like 40% from three, and then he's protecting the rim on the other end. It's freaking ridiculous, you know? And so when we see, and it's not just corner threes, and that's one thing we should be a little bit excited about with Walker Kessler is he's hit like 2 threes in a row. You know, it's 2 shots, so it's, you know, but it's not nothing. If he can consistently do that, that changes what Walker Kessler can be. But Chet Holmgren shooting the 3 from all over the floor, putting the ball on the floor, doing all he does, and then on defensive end, protecting the rim. It's ridiculous. It's so good. And you can bet the Jazz would love a player like that. They're hoping that Walker Kessler can be that. But that's kind of part of why John Collins is starting, because that's an important thing. It is what it is. And by the way, if you go to cleaning the glass, you look at John Collins, his rim protection's actually pretty decent. It's not bad. And so that's part of what's going on here. You need some prime glass. Oh, that's a good point, Jesse James. I would love some prime glasses. In fact, I want some. That would be pretty dope. All right. So anyways, did we kind of talk about that? Anyways. Oh, wait. I lost track of time. You guys are donating so much. I appreciate it. It's crazy. You don't want this year's pick. 1, because of the money. 2, because you'd like it to convey the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because what happens if you don't convey the pick? Well, it still belongs to OKC for 2 more seasons. Next season, which is the Cooper Flag draft, and the season following that, which I believe is Cam Boozer. And let's say the Jazz things don't go well. Let's say they start poorly next year. Let's say they decide next year is purely development. Let's say Oklahoma City Thunder come to the Jazz and say, we'd like to give you 6 first-round picks and Casey Wallace for Lauri Markkanen. You probably think about doing something like that, and then next year. But guess what? If you have your pick, and let's say the Jazz pretty decent, it's a good draft like next year. So let's say the Jazz have like the 13th pick. Let's say they get a little better. They get in the play-in, but they're not quite good enough. They get like the 14th pick. Well, you keep your pick, but then the following year it's protected again, and it's top 8. Let's say Lauri Markkanen tears his ACL. Heaven forbid, knock on wood, that does not happen. But something like that happens. Something terrible happens, and the Jazz are not as good as they thought they'd be, or they're going to be really bad. Well, your pick's going to OKC. So, and that's the thing, is next year it's top 10 protected. In 2026, it is top 8 protected. Then it disappears. But the other thing is, let's say the Jazz convey their pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Jazz have pick swaps in those seasons. I believe it's 2026, possibly 2025. I know they have a pick swap for sure with Cleveland. If your pick conveys to the Oklahoma City Thunder, you don't get your pick swaps. So if next year you're in the bottom, if you're in like the 13th pick or let's say the Jazz are bad this year, keep their pick. Next year, you're like 13 and it conveys to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't remember if the Jazz have pick swaps next year, but I believe you lose them because there's no pick to trade to either Cleveland or Minnesota. Does that make sense? Hopefully. You can't make a pick swap if you don't have a pick. And so they kind of double lose the pick, right? So the Jazz would like to be at least 11 or better this year. Now, that's the fun thing, is if the Jazz give their pick to Oklahoma City, they don't care how, at this point, it's just, let's win. The Jazz are playing an interesting game this year. Key himself, $2. When Muslim b-ballers die, they become stretch. I'm not going to comment on that one. But I appreciate the donation, Key. I appreciate the donation. But anyways, you guys are kind of wild sometimes. All right. Anyways, does that make sense? If it's top 10 protected, then that means it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you're out of there, you don't want to lose your pick swaps. That's how it works. And so what's fun for this season, and it goes back to what Jesse James Nelson said, is that the Utah Jazz you get to just root for the Jazz to be good this year. I don't know what's going to happen next year. I have some things. I'm wondering if the Jazz are going to pull an Oklahoma City Thunder the last 2 or 3 years where they played SGA but rested him a lot to keep him healthy, and now they're just going strong with him. I kind of feel like that's what's going to go on, and that's like the signals we're seeing, because guess what? A month ago when trade deadline started, we got all that news that Lauri Markkanen was not untouchable. And I know there's a lot of Jazz fans who love Lauri Markkanen. I do too. I think he's great. But that is no small move. That is no small thing. It's one thing to say, like, it's just the difference between someone says, hey, let's talk about Lauri Markkanen. They say, oh, sorry, we're not trading him. And that's the end of the conversation. When you say that he's not untouchable, that means, well, we can have a conversation. Right? And basically what happened today when it comes to the Emmanuel Quickley, OG Anunoby trade, it means that that's one less wing on the market. And if Oklahoma City Thunder is looking to cash in with all these incredible picks they have, they're probably going to give the Jazz a call again. It makes Lauri Markkanen more valuable. Maybe he's worth those 5 picks that the Jazz said that's what it will take. So we shall see. All right. Does that make sense? Anyways, let's get back. So the reason the Jazz win tonight, 2 big reasons. Well, actually, 3 or 4, actually. And a lot of it had to do with the bench. Collin Sexton was awesome. And we've got to talk about Collin Sexton. To start the year, I hated watching Collin Sexton play. I hated it. In fact, I'm sure we talked about it every night. It sucked. It was not fun to talk about. Collin Sexton was playing selfishly. He was playing black hole basketball where you gave him the ball and you just did not expect the ball back. Now he's playing within the offense. He's setting up other players. He's picking his shots within the offense, not forcing his shots within the offense, if that makes sense. And he's doing it at an incredible efficiency level. Look at this. Tonight, 57%. And this is a Miami Heat team. Let's go to the advanced defensive rating. I don't know if they're high. Miami's number 13 in the league for the season. So this is an above average defense. And he's still doing this 8 for 14, 57% from the field, 22 points for him, 5 assists. I mean, these are big time numbers from Collin Sexton. He's doing a fantastic job. 1 for 4 from 3, but for the season, he's honestly, the efficiency is just there. He is just an efficient basketball player, but he has evolved into such an additive player to what the Jazz do. Look at this. He is shooting, it's only 34. This will actually go up. Although it's tough to keep that up when you're starting, but this will go up. 47% from the field, 34 from 3. I'm actually surprised that's not at like 37, 38, So, but we can see in the past he's been 40, 38, 37, 39. That'll get back up to the upper 30s. That's not something I'm worried about. It's just impressive how he has changed. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a mindset thing. The things I love, and honestly, Collin Sexton just makes me happy watching Collin Sexton play basketball and his energy. That first bucket he makes, and he just does that like flex, and he does like the stare into the crowd, and he's just so competitive. It just makes me happy. Watching Collin Sexton play basketball makes me happy. What he does in terms of passion and motivation and competitiveness is incredible. And what he's subtracted from his game is the selfishness. And so you're getting all the good, you're removing all of the bad, and now you're just getting pure happiness from Collin Sexton. I don't know how else to describe it. You're just getting the pure Collin Sexton experience, and he deserves to start. He's earned it because he is playing unselfishly. He is bailing the Jazz out in bad situations and scoring. Honestly, his basketball that he's been playing the last month or two has been really impressive. It is like a complete 180 to what he was doing before, where it was like out of the rotation. I mean, he was outside of Keyonte George minutes when George was still, feeling his way into the lineup as a rookie. If you remember, it was bad. Now he's starting and he's earned the starting minutes and he's got Will Hardy's trust. And I actually think it's not too long until we probably see Keyonte George starting next to him here pretty soon. I mean, one thing that's interesting is THT is completely out of the lineup, and it's rightfully so. He's just not this lineup for the Jazz is starting to tighten up a little bit. How many did they play tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They still played 10 guys with a minimum of everyone getting at least 14 minutes. And so there's no room for Talen Horton-Tucker anymore. Collin Sexton is playing incredible. You can't have Talen Horton-Tucker coming on the floor and making selfish plays. If you're a selfish player, you're not going to succeed on this Jazz team. It's one of the big things I've noticed with this Jazz team is you will pass the ball. Like Will Hardy said, you will play hard and you will pass the ball or you won't play. And that's pretty much what's going on with Talen Horton-Tucker with some of the selfishness plays. Like the Jazz on a night like tonight playing against a good Miami Heat team, you cannot throw away possessions. And someone like THT with what he does throws away possessions. And you can't afford to have that if you want to win basketball games. The Jazz are out to win these games now. And Talen Horton-Tucker not playing is part of that. And Collin Sexton getting more minutes is. And by the way, he only had to play 25 minutes. The Jazz are spreading these minutes. And when you're on the floor, you're playing hard for this Jazz team with this kind of depth. It's pretty impressive. Walker Kessler had another nice night, and he's starting to figure things out. 10 points. He was perfect from the field. 8 rebounds, 2 block shots, just awesome. Whether he starts or comes off the bench, I don't think it really matters all that much. I want to see Walker Kessler's mentality get back to where it was last year. He's got to get to the point where he's dominating games. He's got to get a little meaner, to be honest. Get mean, get forceful, get dominant, and he'll just continue to play more and more and more. He'll be to the point where you just can't keep him off the floor. And he's getting back to that level. The Jazz are detoxing the Steve Kerr poison from his body, and Walker Kessler is proving that he's still just that high-level starting caliber center from last season in his rookie year. So it's nice to see. Robert Hall, $5. I've been pretty out of the loop so far this year. Who are the best picks going into next year? Do we wait for 2025? Happy Hoops year! Yes, sir. Thank you, Robert Hall. By the way, the OG, the original. Basically, I mean, we'll start looking at draft picks next year. It'll be interesting because we get in fact, should we just do it just for fun? Why not? I believe the Jazz have 3 picks next year. Freaking cool, man. All right, I want to do, not that. Utah Jazz future draft picks. All right, let's see here. So 2024, own their first round pick. Do they not have? Man, they might not even start it. Oh, look at that. So they get only their pick in 2024. They don't get 3 until 2025. And then right there, you can see own first round pick. But I believe, sorry, Sports Illustrated, you have this wrong. It's 1 through 8 protected on their own. And then we get a unprotected 2025 Cleveland Cavaliers pick. By the way, the Cavs might be trading Donovan Mitchell. How crazy is that? And Minnesota Timberwolves unprotected first round pick. Okay, this is actually incredible. I think we're going to be bad next year. Just looking at this. I think the Jazz are going to trade everyone except for the rookies. We're going to see a lot of Sensabaugh. We're going to see a lot of Markkanen getting back-to-back rests and things like that. A lot of Keyonte George. Because this is the Cooper flag draft in 2024. Capture the flag, baby. It's capture the flag next year. And then, depending on who you get, it's a good draft. You just go into here and you're just hoping that one of these turns into something good. Maybe Donovan just craters the Cavs and they're just terrible. I mean, could you imagine how amazing would it be? And this is just me as a Jazz fan. You look at the Chicago Bears this year. They traded that pick for Bryce Young that the Carolina Panthers picked, and now the Carolina Panthers have the worst record in the league, and they are going to get Caleb Williams. Could you imagine if the Jazz had the similar situation happen to them, where Cleveland just completely falls apart because of Donovan Mitchell? They just are terrible and somehow win the lottery, and Utah gets the number 1 pick from Cleveland. And this would be Cam Boozer. I can't remember if Ace Bailey is in this one. I'm not totally sure. Is Ace Bailey coming out with Cooper Flag, or is he coming out in this one? He's one that's getting a lot of hype right now. Pretty fun. Pretty fun to think about. Next year is going to be really interesting. But back to back to the Jazz at hand, the the Jazz are just going to win games, and they're good. And I think that even if they trade away, like, in fact, let's just do it really fast. There's a lot of let's just do it tonight, just for fun. I've missed a lot of time, so I'm back. Players I would like to see traded. I do think it would be nice if you get a first round pick for John Collins and for Kelly Olynyk. Although, Kelly Olynyk was big time tonight in helping the Jazz win. He was a big part of this win tonight. These four players right here won the Jazz the game. By the way, we got Jordan Clarkson to talk about tonight. But anyways, if you can trade Kelly Olynyk and John Collins, they're either doing it this year or the upcoming offseason and Kelly Olynyk's contract falls off. I don't think Kelly Olynyk's going to be on the Jazz next year, which is likely why Danny Ainge probably makes something happen. Danny Ainge does not like to lose assets for nothing. Assets are the thing that help you win championships. And, I think they're going to wait until trade deadline day, which is in February 8th, I believe. And then I think that day Kelly Olynyk gets moved, because if you can get something for Olynyk. By the way, the rumor was the Boston Celtics are interested in Kelly Olynyk. So can the Jazz get a first round pick from Boston for Kelly Olynyk? Maybe. John Collins would be just a perfect fit for a bunch of teams out there. Like, does the Clippers have something they'd like to give for John Collins? He'd fit perfectly with what they do. Is there another team that needs like a spread the floor big that can also be a gravity rim running threat? That's John Collins. So there's going to be teams out there. And by the way, we saw some that Woj. It was a thread, not a tweet. It was a Woj thread. By the way, if you haven't already, go sign up for Threads and follow Woj, because he has Wednesdays with Woj, and he literally just answers questions for anyone on there. He answered one of mine, just random questions on Wednesday. You can talk to Adrian Wojnarowski. Anyways, one of the things he said is that there are not a lot of sellers this year. And so that puts the Jazz in the driver's seat with a lot of what they want to do. And so it would be interesting to see if, the Jazz are sellers this trade deadline. John Collins, Kelly Olynyk. I'd like to see, obviously, Jordan Clarkson traded. And, if anyone wants Talen Horton-Tucker, although his contract falls off, I don't think anyone wants him. I think he's just going to, unless someone needs him for salary filler, I think he's going to just fall off. So it's going to be interesting. But anyways, Collin Sexton's been fantastic. Walker Kessler, you've just got to be impressed with what he's doing. Hopefully Walker Kessler can just evolve his game and grow. Keyonte George helped win this game tonight. I mean, big time. Keyonte George was a big time reason the Jazz won this game. Look at this. Highest plus minus of the entire team. Keyonte George came in 6 for 10 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3. He missed only one free throw. And look at this. 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 21 points. Awesome night from Keyonte George. You all know how much I love Keyonte George. And it was why, there were Jazz fans saying, oh, we could get Emmanuel quickly. Maybe we can get Emmanuel quickly. Why do you want Emmanuel quickly? The Jazz already have Collin Sexton, Chris Dunn, Keyonte George, Jordan Clarkson, Taylor. The Jazz already have a ton of guards, and they already have a scoring guard in Collin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. And even Ochai Agbaji. Another 2-guard you want? No. What you want to be doing is giving the ball to Keyonte George and letting him run the show. Because guess what? Things like tonight are going to start happening. And more often, we're seeing him more comfortable in the offense. He's taking shots and shooting them with comfort. Where in the first 10, 15 games, you could see the adrenaline was just going crazy for him. He has calmed down and he feels like he belongs. And now he's starting to hit his shots. The game is slowing down. As they say, the big cliche of all, the game's slowing down for him. It really is. And he's being able to just take his shots that he knows he can knock down. There's just room for improvement. Some of these passes, some of the familiarity with the offense, where to go, where not to go, when to cut, when not to. It's just going to get better. And he's making the right plays. He's going to just get better, guys. And he is a point guard. Someone on Twitter was talking about how he's an awesome shooting guard. He's not a shooting guard. He's a point guard. He handles the ball. He dishes it out to the big. He runs the pick and roll. He's a point guard. And he's great at it. And he's only going to get better. That's what's crazy. He's 19 years old. How old is Keyonte? 20 years old. He's so young. And so the Jazz have 7 years of just playing with Keyonte George as the point guard. And they're going to try to keep him for 15 years. They're going to give him big time money. That's what Danny Ainge does. If he has an asset he wants, he keeps it, and he pays it the money. He plays these players the money they deserve. And Keyonte is going to earn a lot of money with the Utah Jazz. 21 points, just awesome. The poise that he has, the maturity. He's got a great attitude. You can just see in the locker room he's a good dude. Just an awesome player to have on your team. What a home run pick that was. And honestly, I have a feeling Taylor Hendricks might be even better than we thought. Taylor Hendricks, who got back to the G League, we'll see him soon, and I would like to see John Collins and Kelly Olynyk traded at trade deadline so that Taylor Hendricks can play. Now, if the Jazz are trying to convey their pick, it's going to be interesting but I think Taylor Hendricks helps you win those games. I think the Jazz are trying to fast forward as much as they can the development of Taylor Hendricks so that post-trade deadline, he plays a lot and he helps them win. We know he can shoot the ball. We know he can defend. And he's shown an ability to drive to the basket and do all these things. I think that he's going to be a big-time player for them. And we'll see what the Jazz get back, but it may not matter all that much. Losing Jordan Clarkson. By the way, let's just talk about Kelly Olynyk. We've talked about trading him, but let's talk about what he did tonight. Kelly Olynyk was fantastic tonight. 66% from the field. He only took 1 3, and it was that bailout 3 at the end. Basically, what the Jazz were doing, and it's a credit to Will Hardy, is they had 2 matchups they were going after. They were going after Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Look at that. -10, -1. Every single time one of those guys was on one of those players on the Jazz team, they went after him. And it's another reason why the Jazz are looking for skilled players. That is one of big, athletic, skilled players. That is what the Jazz are drafting. That's what the Jazz are doing. You can see it in Keyonte George. You can see it in Taylor Hendricks. And it's the reason why someone like Kelly Olynyk plays. Because when Kelly Olynyk gets the ball and he sees Duncan Robinson on him, as the great guys on TNT say, barbecue chicken. It was barbecue chicken all night. And Kelly Olynyk, when he got the ball, he just drove to that basket. He was going like 2 miles an hour, and it didn't matter because he was scoring every single time. It was awesome to see. Olynyk is such a smart player. Tonight he goes, or let's see, where's Olynyk? Right there. 19 points for Olynyk, 10 assists. He dang near broke the triple-double streak. It's too bad he didn't rebound the ball, but he almost did. But anyways, awesome night from Kelly Olynyk. The Jazz don't win the game tonight without Kelly Olynyk and that level of skill. And that's one thing you're hoping. Can Taylor Hendricks do a little bit of what Olynyk does? Figure out ways to score. It doesn't have to be pretty. All that has to happen is for the ball to go through the ring. That's all that matters. And that's what Kelly Olynyk does, is he finds a way to do it. It doesn't matter if it's, it can be a Ja Morant dunk and it can be a Kelly Olynyk 1 mile an hour drive and layup. It doesn't matter. They both count as 2 points. And Kelly Olynyk did a great job tonight. Fantastic. Ochai Agbaji, he struggled a little tonight. The shooting wasn't there. The one stat that was incredible was that block. That block was insane. If you did not see it, this was out of this world. Look at this block. So this is let's just go here. This was a transition and boom, comes back. That thing was insane. Just an incredible block for Ochai Agbaji. Super impressive. And he had some nice defensive plays too. Nice defensive possessions. He had one play where he got to the basket, got to the free throw line, and then promptly missed them both. But it was nice to see him get to the free throw line. So, struggle shooting the ball tonight for Ochai Agbaji, but he played solid defense, and you're still happy when he's on the floor. Now, it was interesting. So, if you don't follow Laird Doman on Twitter, he's a great follow, and he made a comment because Will Hardy benched Jordan Clarkson at that last 4-minute mark, and Jordan Clarkson was not happy about it. But you know what? You look at these stats here: 3 for 10 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. He did stop the turnovers, which was nice, but against the New Orleans Pelicans, and I went back and watched that game, he had like 4 turnovers in the first quarter. It was bad, and he had 6 turnovers. He had the most turnovers of any player that day. I was looking at league leaders, and on the top of the turnovers was Jordan Clarkson with 6. You can't do that at the end of these games, and you've got to be able to play defense. Keyonte George stays in the game. Collin Sexton. They played Lauri Markkanen, Fontecchio, and I can't remember. I think it was. I think they were switching in and out John Collins and Walker Kessler for defense and offense. John Collins had a big-time defensive possession too, by the way. in one of those possessions. So, it tells you what Keyonte George can do defensively, and he's turning into something pretty nice, actually. Keyonte George is turning into a defender. But anyways, Jordan Clarkson's not, and the efficiency was not there, and the turnovers were better tonight, but he was just not playing a lot of winning basketball tonight. He hits just 1 3, 1 out of 5. You've got to give credit to Will Hardy. He rests him. It does not matter if the players are mad. It's not a game of popularity with Will Hardy. It is to win the game. It's to win the game. And so a lot of people are saying, well, why is John Collins starting over Walker Kessler? Well, Walker Kessler has started some of these games. Why is Simone Fontecchio starting, instead of Kelly Olynyk? I don't know. They're playing different things, but what I can and I was thinking about it, and one of the things I'm noticing that's kind of a signature thing for Will Hardy is that the end of the games, like they did tonight, Will Hardy is playing the lineup that's rolling, that's winning the game, that's positive. The guys that played, Keyonte George, plus 14, Kelly Olynyk, 11 minutes. Walker Kessler got extended run. I mean, Walker Kessler played 23 minutes, played more than John Collins. Will Hardy was going with Walker Kessler because he was playing well. He went with Collin Sexton. Look at this. 22 points. I know the -2, but that's because he's on the floor with, I don't know. That's actually kind of weird. But anyways, that's one thing that Will Hardy is doing is he is running with the players that are winning the game. And he has so many different lineups, and he's not worried about running just a strict rotation that was like the calling card of Quinn Snyder, where it was like, it does not matter what's happening. It does not matter the flow of the game. It does not matter anything other than my rotations start and stop at these moments. And that at these times, these players come in and they have to execute in this specific way. Whereas Will Hardy's saying, no, I'm going to put in this player because he's dominating the matchup. I'm going to play Kelly Olynyk 27 minutes and continue giving the ball because he's dominating Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Every time they're on him, Kelly Olynyk's scoring. And so that's what we're going to do. It's just a calling card for Will Hardy, and it's fantastic to watch. And this Jazz team has gotten better. The other thing with this Jazz team, and KG to Olynyk Clinic, I'll get there. Thank you for the $5. I'll answer it. Every single Jazz player on this team, and this is something that was not a part of the Quinn Snyder era either, is there is personal responsibility to play your position every night. And that means on both ends of the floor. And if you are not defending your position, you are going to eventually sit on the bench. And if you are not playing the right way offensively, you are going to sit on the bench. And it doesn't mean like Quinn Snyder where you have to sit in this specific spot in the corner. And if you can't hit corner threes, then you're not going to play. Because, Quinn Snyder is the king of square peg and round hole half the time. Will Hardy's setting up an offense that allows players to play within it and do what they do well. You run a pick and roll. Are you better at driving to the basket like Collin Sexton is? Then drive to the basket. You run a pick and roll and you're Keyonte George, and right now you're better at doing a pull-up three. But you're running within the offense and you're moving the ball, finding open shots. And so starting, yes, these players care. We care who starts. But what is really interesting about how these games are coming out is the players who are playing well get extended minutes. They just do. Chris Dunn had a great first quarter, got some run, and then he really struggled in like the third quarter, and he didn't play anymore for the rest of the game. And he wasn't hitting his threes tonight either, and he hasn't been hitting his threes for like 2 or 3 games. So it's starting to be an issue. It's why I think Keyonte George is going to probably, I think Keyonte George with Collin Sexton is going to be happening here soon. We'll see. Maybe not, but I would not be surprised. And then, for all those people that are worried about Walker Kessler starting, well, if Keyonte George switches places with Chris Dunn, my bet is that Walker Kessler is going to play at the center position. And John Collins has come off the bench multiple times this year as well, which was when Keyonte George was starting. So, all right, KG to Olynyk Clinic. Sorry, Clarkson, this isn't Quinn a lot anymore. Exactly. Same wavelength, where you automatically get minutes if you're part of the rotation. Gotta earn it. Hardy boys. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. That's freaking exactly what I just said, and I agree 100%. If you want to be on the floor, you have to play the right way. The right way. Or you're not going to play. And THT is out of the rotation, and Jordan Clarkson is going to get traded. He is. Bill Simmons made an interesting tweet today after the New York Knicks trade that they should trade for Jordan Clarkson to get those quickly minutes. I would do that in such a heartbeat. Evan Fournier, he can come to the Jazz and have a nice vacation to Park City and enjoy Trolley Square. Go get some wings at Trolley Wing Co. to Evan Fournier, but do not expect to come off that bench. Right? I would love it. That would be fantastic. All right. I think that's everything. Those were the things I wanted to mention about Will Hardy, the rotation. I think that's everything tonight. The Jazz are at number 10. If they move to like 11, which seems very possible, they are only, what is this? A game and a half behind Brooklyn? And they've lost 2 in a row. Look at this as well. This is interesting. Look at how poorly all these teams are doing. Look at what Utah's done the last 10. 7-3. 7-3 in their last 10. The Jazz have one of the better records going outside of, Miami, who was 7-3. I mean, that's the other thing. Markkanen was not playing well. Look at what Miami's doing, and the Jazz just beat them tonight. That should tell you something. This Jazz team is playing well. They're playing at this level right now where, with these good teams. And so if the Jazz, I don't know if they're going to keep up this, winning percentage, but if the Jazz can play, at a 6-4 or 5-5 pace for the rest of the season, I think they 100% could get into this area, convey the pick, and we will all be happy. And what if the Jazz got into a play-in spot? How fun would that be? How fun would that be? Thank you for the donation, KG to Olynyk Clinic, KG to CB, to LM. Thank you very much. But anyway, since we're in the bottom 10, we definitely have to at least, if we're in the lottery, we're doing a lottery pick. So let's see here. I got to pull this up. And thank you everyone who supports the channel. I tell you what, it's amazing. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I missed the last one. My New Year's resolution is actually to be doing much more for this channel. And I have some cool things coming up that I think everyone's going to really enjoy. So anyways, if the Jazz pick was today, what would happen? Jazz would stay at 10. And who does that get them? Tyrese Proctor. Big point guard from Duke. I don't know anything about him. I don't have any thoughts. Anyways, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's give a shout out to Dangerous Danger FC, Christian House Money to Haas, The Outlaw, Jesse James Nelson, Joshua Hansen, the Danish Destroyer, Ryan Perry, the legend, Isikali Raisibe, the man from down under, yes, Jake C. Can, see ya, Lexa Later, Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Jordan the Go Best Roll, TGD, Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG to Olynyk Clinic, Patrick Kukubo, the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Keyonte George to Olynyk Clinic, I should say. All right, guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you go to Prize Picks, use promo code HoopsNerd. And yes, Steve, exactly. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm going to go with my kids to get some candy for the New Year's Eve tomorrow night. Everyone be safe. Have a good Happy New Year's. I will talk to you next time.